Another day of fast-moving political developments. The Congress first finally going on record to say Manmohan Singh will be their Prime Minister till 2014. Mamata Banerjee later daring the Congress and saying Kalam is her first choice. Mulayam backtracking, saying he never said Kalam is the final choice. What's really going on? Hello and welcome to We Mean Business. I'm Shweta Rajpal Kohli. On the show today, we ask, is Pranab Mukherjee still in the race, or will he continue as India's finance minister, or are we simply heading for mid-term polls? Let's first take a look at the headlines at this hour.
हम तो यूपीए छोड़ा नहीं। अगर यूपीए चाहता है कि हम नहीं रहे तो उसका बात है। हम चाहते नहीं है कि यूपीए गवर्नमेंट टॉपल हो, लेकिन अगर वो लोगों ने चाहते हैं तो choice is with the ball is with the Congress.
Mamata Banerjee dares the Congress, says won't quit the UPA but dares the Congress to throw her out. Also says Kalam is her final candidate. Congress continues to back Pranab as the first choice. Says Manmohan Singh Prime Minister till 2014. Minutes after Mamata says Kalam is the final candidate, Mulayam backs out and says that he never said Kalam is his final candidate. Is the Mulayam-Mamata bond cracking? After a day's silence, the Congress finally backs the Prime Minister. He will be our Prime Minister till 2014. The UPA will meet tomorrow. All Congress chief ministers have been summoned to Delhi. Pranab Mukherjee and Hamid Ansari are not the final candidates of the Congress, says the party. Mamata says she had proposed Meera Kumar. Sonia Gandhi said no. But even the CPI says they now want a Dalit woman as president. NDA to meet tomorrow as well. No decision on their candidate. The Janata Dal United is apparently not keen on Kalam. Akal formally say they are fine with him. Before we move on to our panelists on the show, let me go across to our group editor Barkha Dutt on what's really going on. Barkha, the battle for Raisina Hill seems to be getting murkier and murkier and even more complicated. My question to you is, are we heading for midterm polls?
Well, Shweta, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? The fact of the matter is that no matter which way you look at it, there's only one possible theory that explains why Mulayam Singh Yadav and Mamata Banerjee bowled this googly to the Congress, why they in fact suggested that the Prime Minister should be President, and that is that both the allies are keen on an early election. Why do they want an early election? Quite simply because he has romped home on a stupendous performance in Uttar Pradesh. He knows that if there's an election earlier, perhaps that prevalent pro-Samajwadi Party mood would prevail. Mamata Banerjee again comes home, rides home to power on a stupendous victory, but runs into multiple controversies in the last few months. Also thinks that if more time is allowed to pass, the anti-incumbency set will now increase. Now the answer to your question depends on one thing. Can the Congress drive a wedge between Mulayam Singh Yadav and Mamata Banerjee? In fact, Congress leaders are hopeful that there was no joint photo opportunity like yesterday between Mamata Banerjee and Mulayam Singh Yadav. Only Mamata Banerjee spoke to the press. Can the Congress get Mulayam Singh back to the fold? That will determine what happens next. And of course, the Congress needs its presidential nominee to win. What is mysterious is that the Congress is still not named who this nominee is, with Congress sources saying the final decision will be revealed only tomorrow after the UPA meeting. Now, here's very simply the bold truth. The Congress needs to bring back Mulayam to its fold. The Congress needs its presidential nominee to win. If it's a Pranab Mukherjee versus Abdul Kalam contest, this needs the left to create a bloc that backs Pranab Mukherjee. Otherwise, the numbers game is down to the wire. That's the long answer to your question. The short answer is we cannot rule it out right now.
All right, Barkha Dutt, many thanks for joining us and sharing that perspective. We also have with us on the show today Aditi Fadnis, political editor of Business Standard, and Chaudhary, well-known political analyst. Thank you both for joining us. And before I actually come to you, let me also go across to an interview that I had recorded earlier with a very, very well-known industry leader, Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw, CMD of Biocon, who spoke with us from Bangalore. I started by asking Kiran Shaw about those bizarre developments unfolding over the presidential elections. Mrs. Shaw, some are calling it a comic opera. How are you really reading into these developments?
You know, as a citizen of India, I feel they're making a mockery of the system, they're making a mockery of the people, and they're making a mockery of politics. You know, the presidential post is an apolitical post. It has to basically represent and draw from people who have stature, who are apolitical, and who have contributed to nation building, is what I feel as a citizen. And therefore I believe that what they are doing today is actually devaluing this whole post of the president. How can we have someone in active political office be even nominated for this position? I personally believe neither Pranab Mukherjee nor Manmohan Singh should be even eligible for nomination.
And the latest twist now in this political drama is that Mamata Banerjee says Kalam is her first choice, even as Mulayam has backtracked.
You know, Dr. Kalam has done the country proud. He has been the President of India. He has played this role admirably. But, you know, for a country of our size, are you telling me that we are bereft of other people like Dr. Kalam? You know, what about Narayan Murthy? What about Sam Pitroda? What about Deepak Parekh? What about Ashok Ganguly? What about Vagul, Kasturi Rangan, MS Swaminathan? I mean, the list is endless. Why are we stuck on somebody who has already played this role? I mean, what is happening to our presidential process of selection?
But my other question to you is that where does that leave our finance minister? Is Pranab Mukherjee still in the race? Is he likely to become the president? Many unanswered questions there.
Well, you know, as I said, I wouldn't even consider him in the race because I personally believe both Pranab Mukherjee and Dr. Manmohan Singh are holding very important ministerial responsibilities. What are we trying to say? Are we trying to say that they are dispensable? Are we trying to say that the finance minister and the prime minister are dispensable in their present roles? You know, what is the signal we are trying to send? And secondly, they are not apolitical people. So in my view, when you are looking for a presidential candidate, the person must be apolitical to begin with. Let's set the eligibility criteria first and then come up with a set of names. Who are these people? They have to be people who have achieved something. People who have contributed to nation building in some way. People with integrity. People who are respected. These are the kind of names that should be coming forward. Not political names. I mean, today the political parties are playing a political chess game in the name of, selecting a presidential candidate. They're making a mockery of the whole system.
It is indeed a chess game and a mockery, but many actually believe that Pranab Mukherjee is best suited to become president given the important position he occupies within the party, his seniority and his wide acceptability. Also because he did not become the prime minister, so perhaps this is a consolation prize, something he deserves.
But Shweta, I go back to my basic question. Do you really think a person who is in a political office, who is active in politics, should be eligible for this position? I mean, look at the way we started appointing presidents in the past, starting with Dr. Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan, Rajendra Prasad, even Dr. Abdul Kalam. All these people were apolitical people. How come we are suddenly changing the rules of the game and wanting all the political people to get consolation prizes? I mean, what kind of logic is this?
Also, what's ironical is that this entire presidential polls drama is coming at a time when the economy is in serious need of strong leadership. Growth seems to be slipping. There is policy paralysis at the center now for many, many months or years. And now the presidential polls, another big distraction, another drag on the economy perhaps.
Well, I think we are going through a very bad phase in our history. And I think, politics is at its lowest point as far as I can see. I mean, I've never seen politics at such a low point during my lifetime. And it's very sad for me as a citizen to see how politics, and I'm not blaming one single party, but how everyone is mismanaging politics, mismanaging the economy, mismanaging even now the presidential process. I mean, what are the politicians doing? Don't they realize they're devaluing themselves?
Alright, many now believe that we may be heading for midterm polls, and looking at the way Mamata has been holding UPA to ransom, maybe That's the best way forward is what many actually believe.
Well, you know, the way things are heading today, I really think we need a midterm poll. Because, you know, this is not the way the country can continue on this path. Secondly, I also believe that the presidential process has to be a very serious and a process which needs to respect this position. Personally, I believe all politicians and all political parties need to do a very deep introspection because they are not behaving in a way they should. And I think that's what really worries me the most. They are just not doing what they're supposed to in the way they are supposed to, upholding the sanctity of this position.
So in that sense, really, who would you really blame for the country's political and economic mess that we're seeing right now? The Congress that clearly can't get its act together, the BJP that continues to play a partisan and destructive role, or allies like the Trinamool who are constantly blackmailing and threatening the government, coalition politics at its worst?
Well, you know, a ruling party has to take responsibility for anything that goes wrong with the economy. And I believe that, yes, there are some serious issues with the current coalition, government. Basically, there are serious issues about partisan politics between the opposition and the ruling parties, but also within the UPA government. And really, it's very evident that there is a leadership crisis. Wherever you look at it, whether it's in the opposition, whether it is in the ruling party, I mean, I'm really concerned. Where is the maturity and stability in Indian politics today?
Clearly, many questions that we need to answer. No maturity and stability in Indian politics. Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw, many thanks for joining us and sharing your views. Let me actually take forward those points that have been raised in that discussion with our panelists here. Neja ji, Kiran Shaw saying we should not have a political person for the post. But that's, of course, another debate. The debate today is, are we really heading for midterm polls? Given today's developments, do you really see that this government can continue till 2014?
Look, I think it's looking very difficult, and the fact that Mulayam Yadav and Mamta Banerjee did what they did yesterday,
right,
which took the ruling combine completely by surprise, shows that they must have a political plan up their sleeve. They're not just doing it, for the sake of it. And both of them would gain from a midterm poll. Now, the Mulayam Singh Yadav has done a bit of backtracking, so the government might get some respite. They are getting their act together on numbers. And if it is true that Mulayam Singh Yadav may vote with Pranab Mukherjee, who was his first preference till yesterday's developments,
right,
and the chief ministers of Congress states have been called here, and they are doing their homework, and the left, particularly the CPM, bats for him, then a possibility that Pranab Mukherjee may get elected. But where does this leave the government? That means the government will have to rely much more on Mulayam Singh Yadav, much more on Mayawati. And if it has to rely on the left, that becomes a very uncertain kind of, it's one thing to get a president elected, it's another to keep the government going.
What is the bigger priority right now? And it's not a very happy situation, as Neja was telling us, to depend much more on Mulayam, on Mayawati. Would the government rather get out of this mess and say yes, midterm polls?
No, not at all. I don't think government wants midterm polls. It would try and avoid it as much as possible. Nor does the BJP want midterm polls.
Right.
I mean, there's absolutely no reason why the BJP should be taking its time to name its own candidate and has to respond to prodding and pushing by the
But even the Congress for that matter.
So I think there is an unstated compact here between the two biggest parties in parliament that we don't want an election, and we must help each other out to avoid one as much as possible. But having said that, I totally agree with Neja ji. I don't know if a midterm poll can be avoided beyond a point. Look at the circumstances in which it can happen.
Right.
I mean, hypothetically.
Right.
The government can fall only on the floor of the house.
Right.
And the slightest bit of mismanagement on the floor of the house could lead to a disaster. So it's a very tenuous, very difficult situation to be in.
But Neerja, it is a mockery in one sense, as Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw was really saying. The citizens of this country are very confused. It started with a race for Raisina Hill. When Mukherjee was being named as perhaps the top contender, we said now it's a race for North Block. We want to know who the next finance minister of the country is going to be. Now it seems to be a race for Racecourse Road. What's going on?
Look, what happened here, you know, we've seen ever since the onset of the coalition era, we've seen even the election of the president, lot of things go on, last minute suspense, a candidate comes in the fray, is out of the race, then another dark horse comes. This happened in 2002, it happened in 2007.
Right.
What has been very unpalatable, distasteful, and I felt personally, if I was to express myself, I felt cheapened by, as a citizen of India, by what I saw yesterday. You know, you don't, you can inside a closed room say, I don't like your candidates, I think you consider these. But to come out and, it was a public humiliation of the Prime Minister of India to say he should be kicked upstairs to Rashtrapati Bhavan. It was a public humiliation of the Finance Minister of India to say, we don't accept him. And you are standing in front of 10 Janpath and saying Mrs. Sonia Gandhi gave us 2 names and half an hour later you are saying not acceptable to us, these are the 3. Now I'm not saying you don't have a right to your view, but surely there has to be, you know, there has to be dignity in this process, a gravitas through which you select the presidential nominee. After all, he is the first citizen, he is the unifying symbol of the country, he represents you and me. The way it was done, that, you know, publicly the way it was yesterday has not happened in the past.
Would you agree, Aditi ji? Because in many ways, Mamata Banerjee today tried to defend what she did yesterday by saying, I have the right to go ahead. She even dared the Congress and went one step forward. Do you think, would you agree with Neerja ji's views that what's really ironical is the manner in which this entire thing has unfolded, really?
Well, broadly agreeing with her, I would say that the Congress has to blame. It has, in the past, it has treated allies so badly. And it has just not given them space, it has not given them, importance, it has not. So it's not enough to buy an ally with ministerships and this and that. Mamata Banerjee has, to her credit, been saying consistently that Pranab Mukherjee is not acceptable to her.
Okay.
So what is behind it? It could be the fact that Pranab Mukherjee has humiliated her, reduced her to tears, and has rubbed her nose against the wall on numerous occasions.
Right.
Mamata Banerjee is not the brightest spark in the government. I mean, we have to accept that.
Right.
When the railway budget was, when she was railway minister, she came to Pranab Mukherjee with scraps of paper on which she purportedly the railway budget was written.
Right.
Pranab Mukherjee howled and shouted at her until she cried. Now,
so it's Mamata's way of actually getting back.
So I think, you know, it's all those accumulated hurt and anger and egos and battered sort of feelings, and also the fact that, okay, now I'm top dog, so I can do what I want. I'm in power.
All right, let's in fact talk about India's Finance Minister Pranab Mukherjee. Has this been a huge public humiliation for him? Let's actually take a look at Pranab Mukherjee's journey, one of the tallest politicians we've seen.
He was called the eternal number 2. Will Pranab Mukherjee stop just short of the top ceremonial post for the second time? For the astute politician known to be the crisis manager of many a Congress government, the Rashtrapati Bhavan would be the natural destination.
Basically, I'm a village boy.
Though currently battling growth slowdown and allegations of policy paralysis, Pranab was recognized as a successful finance minister between 82 and 84. When he was rejected for the president's post in 2007, many felt it was because of the leadership controversy just after Indira Gandhi's assassination. Rajiv Gandhi had asked him, who'll take over? Mukherjee reportedly replied, the senior most minister.
Did you feel a sense of hurt, for example, your name was being circulated for president when that did not happen? Did you feel a sense of hurt?
No, because rather it satisfied me, because I was told by no less a person than Congress president that I require for certain work, which are assigned you, and this is my conviction that these works you will have to do it. So why should I be having any hard feeling?
If importance is measured by the number of positions, no one can match Pranab. Out of 183 groups of ministers formed by the UPA, Pranab chairs at least 80. The controversial GOMs dealing with politically sensitive issues, Lokpal and Telangana, are always handled by Pranab Mukherjee. And he's also the crisis manager with maximum acceptability with opposition parties.
Well, as somebody who's normally been very critical of the government, I have no hesitation in admitting that he's still one of the few who I find I'm very comfortable with discussing whether it's a crisis situation or an ordinary situation.
But congressmen point out, while Sonia Gandhi trusts Pranab Mukherjee with tricky political situations, she's never given him the Prime Minister's job.
Why should I have grievance? What opportunity?
Because they depend on you for every single crisis. You're the chief troubleshooter.
That's not the question. That's not the issue. That may be a perception, but that is not the issue. Yes, I help the party because I am senior enough. Perhaps I am the longest serving working committee member now, as P.V. Narasimha Rao is dead. So, but that is because of I am continuing, I am still living. That's all. But that is not the reason. There are many people who give service to the party. Party has given me enough.
But you know,
therefore, I have no grievance. I have no complaint. And whatever task party gives me, I always accept them.
Pranab has made it clear to the Congress president he won't fight another election, and at 77 he couldn't be part of a younger team led by Rahul Gandhi. But despite his cross-party acceptability, coalition compulsions may block his road to Rashtrapati Bhavan.
The options were a bit limited this time because of coalition compulsions, but perhaps no one had higher acceptability across than Pranab Mukherjee. While one can't really predict his tenure as Rashtrapati, most commentators say that Pranab Mukherjee will be anything but boring. In New Delhi, Shweta Chaudhary for NDTV.
Neetaji, anything but boring, Pranab Mukherjee, but many a slip between the cup and the lip, as they say, so close and yet so far away from becoming the president. Question mark as to whether he's going to continue as India's finance minister, and that's the big worry for industry right now. They want some certainty going forward. We were already talking about new names for a possible finance minister, Dr. Rangarajan, Montek Singh Ahluwalia. How would you actually rate him as a finance minister? Because many industrialists actually say that he's been a very distracted finance minister, one who has not been able to take charge of the economy, and what's happened in terms of the economic mess is perhaps because he just had too many political distractions.
But too much for his shoulders to carry, is that what you're saying?
Right.
Yes, India Inc. is probably not happy with Pranab Mukherjee as finance minister. They might want somebody else.
Right.
And seen from that perspective, they would probably like him to go to Rashtrapati Bhavan.
Exactly. That was in fact being seen as the best case scenario for India Inc.
And there was a buzz that the Prime Minister may want to keep finance with him. Whether his party would like that to happen is another matter. But today it's very difficult to say whether he will actually make it to Rashtrapati Bhavan or whether he will remain as finance minister. I think the situation is too much of a flux at the moment today to say anything.
We're all working on assumptions right now because it's such a fast-moving political situation, so we do not know. But assuming that the Congress is able to pull it off and Pranab Mukherjee does become the president, what should be the Congress's strategy with regard to that very critical portfolio of the finance minister? Should the Prime Minister retain it, or should we actually have somebody else? Who do you think would be ideally suited for that job?
It depends who chooses the person for the job. If the Prime Minister gets a chance to choose the person, he will straightforward immediately appoint Dr. Rangarajan as the finance minister.
Right.
Dr. Rangarajan, few know this, but Dr. Rangarajan was frequently the intermediary between the Prime Minister, the go-between between the Prime Minister and the finance minister when there were differences and there were many differences of opinion.
Right.
Especially on the retro tax. Few people know this, that when the finance minister proposed to the PM that he's introducing this tax, the PM was aghast. And
okay, that's interesting because
so I mean Dr. Rangarajan was the person whom the Prime Minister contacted when he wanted the finance minister to tone down some provisions in GAR.
Right.
So there are all these issues. I mean, look, the finance minister has to get his budget passed. He reckoned that if retro tax was included in the budget, there'd be nobody actually opposing it. No one could afford to oppose it.
Right.
So there have been differences, and I think to put the economy back on the rails, I think it would be it would not be an addition to say that most industrialists are hoping and praying that he does go to Rashtrapati.